maybe we could turn our attention to developments that are arguably somewhat positive. Chile is somewhat positive. What do you think about what's happening in Argentina with Milei? And we also have the example of El Salvador and with its turning to both Bitcoin, interestingly enough, and to the US dollar. So let's start with Argentina. So what are your views on what is happening in Argentina? Like is what Milei is doing, is that producing any success on economic grounds? Because it's very difficult to sort out the wheat from the chaff in terms of anything approximating legacy media coverage of Argentina.
Well, I have to disclose here that I'm a good friend of Milei, and we have been working for cause of freedom in Latin America for 10 years together. So what is happening in Argentina is the most fascinating and interesting thing that I've seen, of course, in my lifetime, but also I think in the last half a century, because what is really taking place is a cultural revolution in a positive sense, not the Chinese type of Maoist type of cultural revolution, but Argentina was the wealthiest country in the world in 1896, with the highest per capita income in the world. We had a constitution in place, the 1853 constitution that was designed by Juan Bautista Alberti, who was an admirer of the founding fathers of the United States. He was a classical liberal, conservative classical liberal. He believed that the government had to be limited. And he saw in the French revolutionary tradition of people like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, one of the main reasons why Latin America was not prosperous enough. And because we expected everything from an omnipotent government. He actually has an article called Omnipotent Government. And he said the Americans, on the other hand, they expect from government nothing. They fix the things for themselves, okay? So he created the 1853 Constitution. And after that, Argentina became the most successful country in the world in terms of per capita income. But if you went to 1914, you had half of the population in Buenos Aires was born not in Buenos Aires. They were foreigners coming from Europe. So it was a legitimate question to ask yourself, are we emigrating to the United States or to Argentina in the late 19th century? This is what happened back then. And this is why also the Argentinian population looks so European in general. And you had in the last World Cup all these nonsensical articles saying, well, why there are no black people in the soccer team in Argentina and so on. This is, and it's this very European population. But in the 20s and 30s, and then especially 40s with Juan Domingo Perón, who was a fascist general, a collectivist fascist general, admirer of Mussolini. He had met Mussolini actually in Italy. But he was anti-communist at the same time. He didn't want the central plan economy for, the whole thing, but he wanted the corporatist type of very corrupt economy. And then they changed dramatically the institutions. And Argentina became a declining nation and a poor nation compared to the rest of the world, at least the developed world. And what did Milei do? Milei and the free market movement, the classical liberal movement, conservative movement in Argentina, I played a role also there. So we managed to transform dramatically the mindset, especially of young people. In Argentina, you are allowed to vote with 16. So between 16 and 24, Milei got 70% of the votes, 70%. And these young people forced the change towards Milei type of very hardcore, radical free market regime, but not because people were upset because inflation was so high and so on. No, that was not the reason. There is a structural change in Argentina. All of these people, they would have been Peronist 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And now they are libertarians. And how did we achieve that? Well, a lot of going to medias, giving interviews, especially social media. TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube were crucial to change the mentality of millions of people. And of course, the style. Milei has a charisma, a style that is very, eccentric, let's put it that way. And he is irreverent. He has the rhetoric of a revolutionary, which is very Argentinian. By the way, it's not really strange in that country. He's very theatrical, but he's also intellectually very solid. So he came to power And he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He didn't lie. He said, you know, all over the last years that he has been on television, over the last 5-6 years, he has been saying what was going to happen and what it takes to fix it. Everything came as he predicted, and now he's in government. He has brought down inflation from over 25% a month to less than 4%. The inflation in terms of goods to food, it's 0%. So 0% food inflation. Then you have fiscal surplus. Since January, since he came to power, you have a fiscal surplus every month, a consecutive way. And then you are starting to see a little bit of a reactivation of the economy. Because you first had to deal with inflation. They were on the verge of a hyperinflation. If Milei had not come to power, you would have inflation at over 15,000% in Argentina right now. 15,000%. It would be the complete catastrophe. And he has been a very skillful politician because he doesn't have majority in Congress. But even so, Congress has passed, after several negotiations and failed attempts to pass, but the Bases Law, which is a law that dramatically changes the structure of Argentinian economy, which is really a rent-seeking society. It's really, corporate interests in bed with the politicians and exploiting everyone else for their own benefit.